Hello there, and welcome to day 72 of the 100 Days Python Programming Challenge. And I haven't used a graphic user interface in a while, so let's build a project. And what is our project? We'll build the percentage calculator in Python. We'll calculate the percentage of numbers and the percentage increase or decrease of numbers. It is day 72 of the 100 Days Python Programming Challenge, and my name is Fumilayo. Hello, it's day 72, and today I'm going to do something very, very interesting. I don't know if you've come across this website. I use this website a lot when I want to calculate percentage, and I was like, why don't I create one in Python? So that is what I did. I would explain the code, but let me show you the final result that we hope to get. So this is my version of the calculator that does similar stuff to what we have on the percentage calculator website. So you can calculate the percentage. So if I say what is 20% of 1000, you see the results below. Sounds interesting. Okay, let me show you how you can do it too. Okay, let's begin. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to import Tkinter because we'll be using Tkinter to create the graphic user interface. And from Tkinter, I would import the message box. So first, let me have my interface first. It's not going to work here because I will do the function later. But first, let's have the interface that we want, and then we'll write our function. So again, how to create your main window, you use root equals to tk dot tk. The tk, T is capital letter, K small letter, and then the title. Root dot title is I'm making a percentage calculator. So the first section that we saw was to calculate the percentage of making use of different labels, different entry points, and buttons. So let's do it one at a time. So the first thing is that we want to have the section where you can calculate the percentage of a number. So we would have two entry box where you enter the percentage you want to calculate and then the whole number that you want to calculate the percentage of. So this is our first section. What is X percentage of? So I would have my label for the text that is telling the user what that section is about. So I would have what is the X percentage of Y. And then, you have to specify your row, your column, your padding on the X and the Y axis. And if you want it to be sticky, so I would have this. Let me run the main application so we can see the graphic user interface with every new addition. This is going to be a kind of long video, so follow along with me. So now let me run this. Yes, I said this is the first label, that what is X percentage of Y, and so this is kind of like what we have. And then the next thing is that I want to have my second label that shows that, it is the percentage that would be below, because I want to have two boxes where my user would enter the percentage that they want to calculate and the value they want to calculate the percentage of. So then I would have another label. And this is my second label, percentage. And then this is my grid. It's going to be on one row, and then the column 0, and then the padding. You see now they have the same padding on both the X and the Y axis. And then when I run this, see, we have our what is X of Y, and then this is the percentage where I expect them to enter their value. So since we have our main title and this is the label of our entry box, next let's have our entry box. So I would have my tk.entry, tk.label, tk.button, but now let's have our tk.entry. So entry percentage, percent value, tk.entry of root, and then it's going to be grid of row 1, because you see this is row 1, so it will be at the same level of this, and then column 1, so it's going to be in front of my percentage label, and then the same padding on the Y and the X axis. If I run this, see, can you see? So this is what is the X percentage of Y, the title of my section, and this is the percentage where I want them to enter the percentage of the value that you're trying to calculate. And you see we have the row 1, row 1. They are both on the same row. Column 0, column 1. This is column 0, and this is column 1. So now let's have our second entry box where they'll enter the number, because what we're trying to get is what is X percentage of Y. So this is already serves as our X percentage. So let's have our label and the entry also for Y. It's going to be exactly the same thing. So this is our TK label. You see, the only thing that kind of changes the text, because we have percentage and here we have row. And now the grid is changing because it's going to be below this. So the row is 1 and the row here is 2. The column stays the same because it's nothing changes with that. And then our padding on the X and Y is also the same. And then for the entry where they would enter their value, you see, row 2, it will be on the same level as we have here, row 1 and row 2. And then column 0, column 1. So similar. Let me show you. So see, now we have what is X. This is where the user would enter their percentage, and this is where they will enter their O value. Similar to this, this is a percentage, and this is where the O value would be. So now we want to have a button that when the user clicks on, calculates the percentage based on the value that we have there. And in Tkinter, to have the button, we would have tk dot button and then the text and also the command, but we're not yet touching the function yet, because when they press the button, it will trigger a command, which will be a function that we'll write after we're done. And that function will then do the calculation for us. But first, let's have our graphic user interface. And then we'll go to our functions after. This is my button, tk.button, wrote the text of my button is calculate, and then the percentage, button percentage.grid. You see now the row is 2. You see here we have we started from row is 0, which is our main heading, and then the one we wanted below row is 1, and the one below row is 2, and the one below row is 3. And then we have our column span, which is 2, and then our padding on the y-axis is 10. If I run this, see we have our calculate button, but now it doesn't really do anything because we didn't put a command in front of it. So now we'll go to the next section. According to this, you see what number is the percentage of the other number. So we want to calculate the percentage. X is what percentage of Y. So it's basically the same process. We would have our labels. We have 2 labels, and we would have the entry, and then we would have the button. So say this is our label. X is what percentage of Y. And you see now the row on the last one was 3, and then it becomes 4. And then it's similar to the initial one where we had the column is 0, the padding is 10 on the x-axis, the padding on the y-axis is 5. And then we'll then want to have our label, our first label. Notice our first label, this is our main label. And then the row is then 5 because it goes below. Column stays the same, x and y, the same padding that we had. And then the entry value, same as the way we did it here. And then the row keeps going down because you want it to go below. And then we have the other box because we had 2 boxes where you enter the percentage and then the number. And then there's a button that you have to click to run the function. So let me show you, this is the section we have. So it's just different variable name, but still the same process. And you just have to increase the row by 1 so it goes below it. And then the final section, there's one section that we want to use to calculate the percentage increase and decrease, and it's still like the same as we have here. So you see the same, we have our label, that is our main title, and you see the last time we stopped at row equals to 7, the next one is row equals to 8, column is 0, we're not putting anything in front, and then padding X and padding Y stays the same as we've been using it because we want it to be uniform. You can play around with the values to see how it will look like on your graphical user interface. And then we have the label for our entry. We want to get the old value and then the new value, and then a button to calculate. Let me run this to show this to you. So see, we have our 3 sections here for the user to enter their value. And we have 3 calculate button that the user would click and will call the function to calculate the value. So now that we have these three sections, we also have to be able to display the results. So we would use the tk.label to display our results. And where did we stop? We stop at row equals to 11. That means our next display would be row equals to 12. So we have our TK label, and this is our text, and this is the grid, the label result grid. Our variable name is label result. Our button percentage change, entry new value, entry old value. Choose a variable name that it's easy for anybody to read and they will know what the variable name is for, what the variable is actually doing. And then when I run this, you see, this is where our results will be displayed. So this is our graphical user interface that we want to use for our percentage calculator. So now let's make it work, because now if I enter my value, I just enter 6 and 10 and I click on calculate, nothing happens. So it's time to write our functions that will make all this work. Okay. So since we have three sections that we want to calculate, we have three sections in our graphical user interface. So we're also going to have three functions. So the first function would be to do this calculation, the what is x percentage of y, to get the percentage my user wants to calculate, and I want to collect the number they want to get the percentage from, and then I want to provide the result. The result would then be the percentage divided by 100 multiplied by the whole number. So if it's 20% of 1000, it is 20 divided by 100 multiply by 1000. So let's have our percentage function, our percentage function. I know since we're getting the information from the user, I would use a try and except, because if the user should type something that is invalid, I want to send a message that your entry is invalid. And do not forget the semicolon. So let's try. And then the two things that I'm getting percentage and I'm getting O. Percentage equals to float. And what is this entry percent value? See, the value that we get from the user, our entry box, the value that is inside our entry box. And what is our entry O value? See, entry O value, what we get from the user. And then let's calculate the results so we can display it. So results. So this is our formula to get the percentage. And then I want to print out the result to my user. And what do I use to print out the result? We have label results. So this is what I would use to print out my result into my GUI. We have label results.config, and this is the text I wanted to show my result, and then what my result is equal to. My result is equal to this. So now accept value error. I wanted to show that error, please enter a valid number. So this is my value error. Message box.show error, please enter a valid number. So this is my first function for my first section. So now let's go to the second function. We would use try and accept all true, because you cannot predict what your user would enter in your calculator. So the next one is that we're calculating the percentage of x is what percentage of what. And then we use our try. And then let's see, what do we have here? We have our value and we have our total. See, value and our total. That means we'll use the entry total and entry value to process the information that we get from the user. So value and total float, we'll use the same way we did it here, that we use entry percentage value dot get. We'll also use it here to get the value that was inserted by the user. So we have our value and total, and then float, entry value dot get, entry total dot get. Entry value is this, entry total is this. And then we want to put a message that if the total is 0, since you're calculating the percentage of, you cannot calculate a percentage of 0, a number of 0. You cannot say that, and say 20 is what percentage of 0. That doesn't make sense. So your total cannot be 0. So we'd have an if statement that if my user enters 0, I want the message box to show an error that the total cannot be 0. So this is my if statement. If total is equal to 0, message box dot show error, total cannot be 0, and then return. So then what is my result of this calculation? My result would then be the value divided by total multiply by 100. It feels like we're going back to high school. So result equals to value divided by total. So as I said, your total cannot be 0. You cannot divide by 0. Multiply by 100. So this is our result. And then the same way we did it here, that we used our label result to show the result, that is the same way we'll do it here. So we use our label results.config, and then the what text will show, because we're showing the percentage of, will show percentage, and then the value of our result is what would power our second section, the calculate percentage of. Now for our third section, it is the percentage increase dot decrease. I know we use the old value and entry new value, and would also use a try and except. So the function to calculate the percentage change will try and except get the old value and then the new value, so we can calculate the percentage change there. So old value, entry old value dot get, similar to what we have earlier. And then if the old value is 0, then again we'll show a message that the old value is 0 and it is not supposed to be 0. So let's have our if statement. So if old value is 0, show a message. You should always think about that. My user can do this, my user can do that. I cannot predict. I want my code, I want my program to be as informative as possible. Not that when my user does something wrong, everything falls apart and then I cannot sleep because everything is now apart. So then what is the formula for calculating percentage change? It is the old value minus the new value divided by the old value. We're dividing by the old value, that's why it cannot be 0. And then we'll multiply it by 100. And then we'll display our results the exact same way we displayed the two previous results. Old new value minus old value divided by old value multiply by 100, label result.config, similar to what we have here, and then we'll print out this. And then we'd use try, we also have to use except. I just noticed now that I didn't use except in the second one, but it's the same except. So I can just copy this, except, and then here as well, except value error. So if they don't enter a valid number, show a message that please enter a valid number. So this is our 3 functions. So then how do we now call it in our graphic user interface? So now let's call our function in our GUI. So the first one is in our first section, and we'll be calling the function in our button because it's our button. When you click the button, that we want it to trigger this. And how do we do that? By using command. So I'll type command equals to, so this is our first section. What is my command? My command is calculate percentage. So I can copy this and paste this here. I want to calculate percentage in this command. So now let me go to my second button for my second section. So I'll also have command here. And what is the command? What command am I trying to run? My second function. So we have calculate percentage of, that's the name of my second function. And I put it here. See, this is my second function. And then the third command button, we have command equals to, and then what is the name of my third function? Calculate percentage change. And then I copy it and I paste it in my command. So I have all my commands in my graphic user interface. So now let's run the code. Yeah, and this is what we have. So now let me put numbers so I can make it bigger, whatever I want. So I want what is X percentage of Y. So let's say what is 20% of 1000. And when I click calculate, we get 200, which is correct. 20% of 1000, 200. And then the next thing, let's try the next section. So X is what percentage of Y? So let's say 50 is what percentage of 100. And then when I run this, 50 is 50% of 100. And then the third one is, you see, every time I click on the calculate, it calls the respective function. It gets the value from my box, and then it performs that formula, that arithmetic operation that we have. It divides the old number by the new number and the rest formula that we have. And then for percentage increase and decrease. So if my old value is 100 and then my new value is 200, what is the percentage increase? It is 100. So let's try some errors. So if my user is like sleeping and types rubbish, we get a message box that says, please enter valid numbers. And then what if the old value, they type 0 because it's not supposed to be 0. Old value cannot be 0. So this is how we're able to replicate the percentage calculator.net using Tkinter. And this is our graphic user interface. See you tomorrow for day 73. That is it for this video. Do not forget to subscribe, to like, and leave a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. And as always, the link to the Jupyter Notebook is in the description. See you tomorrow.